When it comes to investing, we embrace simple, passive, long-term investing. So what that means is we are not day trading, we're not buying individual stocks, we are not doing anything fancy. One of my colleagues says it this way, he says, do you want your investments to be sexy or do you want them to work? The answer is you want them to work. I don't need them to be sexy. Now, if you're one of those people that has to have like the woohoo or the highs and lows of investing in individual stocks or crypto or whatever it is, you can make a little bit of a play fund. I have one of these. It's less than 10% of my wealth. That is not my investing. That is my gambling money. No different than if I went to the roulette wheel than picking individual stocks, not investing. That's gambling.
Welcome to the Childfree Wealth Podcast, hosted by Bree and Dr. J, Certified Financial Planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast.
Hey, Child-Free Wealth listeners, we are pulling apart my new book, The Child-Free Guide to Life Money. We are on chapter 12, one of the fun ones, no baby step 4, save and invest towards your goals. And this is one of, if not the longest chapters in the book or sections in the book, 32 pages, because it lays out how can you invest towards your goals and keep it simple. Throughout the book, we've got this theme of how do we make your finances more simple so your life can be amazing? With your investments, we're really trying to do that. Since it's 32 pages, no chance I'm going to cover it all here. We do have a series on investing in the podcast. If you haven't gotten to that, get there. But really what you should do is pick up a copy of the new book, The Child-Free Guide to Life Money. Order it at your local bookstore. Go to your library. Ask them to carry it. Just order it. Come on. It's cheap. It's well worth every penny. Now, let's talk about saving and investing towards your goals. The first step is you have to figure out what your goals are. We talk about file versus fire, this retire early versus live early. That could be your goals. It could be saving towards a house. Doesn't have to be. We have a whole chapter on house owning versus renting. You need to figure out what your goals are. Depending on your goals will change what type of accounts you use and tax planning. You know, there are things like 401ks and IRAs which go towards investing, but your taxable brokerage accounts are good places if you need access to it before then. There's also a balancing act between how much cash you hold and how much you invest. You know, once you get past your 6-month emergency fund, which was no baby step 3, don't jump past that step. You gotta invest it and invest it wisely. Now, what type of account's gonna change your goals? But the other thing that's gonna change your goals is the speed. The faster you wanna make money on your investments, the more risk you have to take. Well, the problem is the more risk you take, it's a double-edged sword. It could go high, could go low. And it's one of those balancing acts, they call it risk-reward, that can be a challenge to get right. It's one of the few areas where you might want to have a financial planner help you out. What you actually buy for stocks, ETFs, all that can be pretty simple. But getting that balance right throughout your life can be a little bit of a challenge. When it comes to investing, we embrace simple, passive, long-term investing. So what that means is we are not day trading, we're not buying individual stocks, we are not doing anything fancy. One of my colleagues says it this way, he says, do you want your investments to be sexy or do you want them to work? The answer is you want them to work. I don't need them to be sexy. Now, if you're one of those people that has to have like the woohoo or the highs and lows of investing in individual stocks or crypto or whatever it is, you can make a little bit of a play fund. I have one of these. It's less than 10% of my wealth. That is not my investing. That is my gambling money. No different than if I went to the roulette wheel than picking individual stocks, not investing. That's gambling. Everything else, we're going to invest. The way we invest, 3 funds, the whole US, the whole world, and some bonds. That's it. It's real simple. There are ETFs, they're called exchange trade funds, that buy this entire bucket of stocks. Stocks are essentially a part of a company that you own. Bonds are essentially you're giving a loan to somebody. And we can buy the whole US, the whole world, and some bonds. For the whole US, we actually outline a few different funds in the book, but we'll use something like VTI, which is a Vanguard version of this, buys the entire US stock market. It's over 3,000 stocks. We'll use something like VXUS, which is the whole world, which is tens of thousands of stocks, and then Bond, which is a fund called BND, a whole bunch of bonds. Now, the reason we do that is we're not taking a bet on any one stock. So in 2023, you look at the return of the S&P 500, it was all based on 7 tech stocks. If you had picked the right 7, you did great. If you picked everything else, you did nothing for the year. Well, I picked the whole stock market. I did fine. Like, you aren't taking a bet on any one stock. And you're not at the whims of like somebody tweets something and then next thing you know, the stock's going through the roof or falling down or whatever. You don't want to get fancy and you don't want things that are on a roller coaster. The whole market goes up, so do you. Whole market goes down, so do you. In general, we try to keep 20% of our stocks in international. That's because whatever craziness is going on in the US, and by the way, I'm recording this in August of 2024, and we're in the middle of election season, talk about craziness. Whatever craziness you have, that gets you past it. The hope is that the international offsets what's in the US. Now, historically, recently, the international hasn't done as well as the US. That's okay, because the US has been doing well. So it's a balancing act. You want to figure out how do you get that right balance to your setup. And you'll hear people talk about like, oh, I've got like an 80-20 split. So I have 80% in stocks, 20% in bonds. Whatever works for you. We have some guidance in our courses and in some of the podcasts to get you into where that goes. Also, the book chapter goes into how to figure out that breakdown, but it depends on your goals. Now, if you're trying to die with zero, you essentially can take one of two paths. You can say, okay, I'm going to take slow and steady, not take a lot of risk because I don't need a lot of money for the end. Or you can go the double or nothing path and go just about all in stocks and take more chances because if it goes down, well, nobody in the next generation is getting it anyway. Like, you can take different chances because you're child free. Now, the only other option we do from the passive long-term investing is an ESG split of the same three funds. ESG being environmental, social, governance. That happens to be how I invest. On the ESG funds, there are whole world funds like ESGV is the whole US. It buys all the stocks in the US minus kind of a naughty list. And the naughty list is like, well, I don't want to invest in coal or fossil fuels, gambling, slave labor, child labor, like bad stuff. Like when I say naughty, I mean really, really bad. Now, I like that because I feel a little better that my investments are matching my values, but we don't know for sure which is going to do better in the long run. Used to be when ESGs first came out, people thought they were going to not do as well as the whole market. There was a recent year when oil went up a giant amount. Well, I didn't have exposure to oil, so I didn't have that upside. But I also didn't have exposure to oil, so I felt better about that. It's up to you. It's still the same concept, though. Three funds, the whole US, world, and some bonds. Set it and forget it. What's going to happen is you're going to put the money in there, and you're not going to take it out until you need it, which could be 20, 30, 40 years, depending on your goals. Now, in some of the investing stuff, they'll talk about rebalancing and some of the fancier stuff. Look, rebalancing is saying, oh, I wanted 80-20. I'm now at like 85-15. I need to adjust it. That's fine. What I'd rather you do is when you put more new money in, adjust it then. Because every time you sell stuff, you got tax impact and you've got some type of cost there. It's not a commission anymore, but there's what's called a spread between what you bid and the ask, kind of like what you're selling for, what they buy for. You're losing some money every time you sell. So I'm more on the passive rebalancing. I just fix it whenever I put new money in. When your 401ks, all that, you might have less choices on it. You got to do what you got to do. You have what's there. A lot of folks will ask, do I need a financial planner to help me with this? The answer is not really. Investing is the easy part. We actually offer either we can do advice only where we help you kind of look over your shoulder, do it, or we do investment management for you. Same price, but we're just setting it and forgetting it. We're not doing anything fancy. I will say that you want to think about, if you are working with a financial planner on your investing, a lot of places charge a percentage of your assets. Like they'll charge you 1% of what's called an assets under management fee. One of the things to watch out for is a potential conflict of interest, because if you have a goal of passing on nothing to the next generation, dying with zero, winding down your wealth, the person that's charging you 1%, well, their goal is different than yours because they make more money as you make more money. Now, I was watching a commercial, Fisher Investments. They said, we do better when you do better. Well, for child-free people, if your goal is to bring down your net worth over time, it's not necessarily true. So I tend to stay away from the percentage-based AUM world. Flat fee, advice only. You can get some good advice. You can manage it, set it and forget it. The stuff that you do need help with, more kind of tax planning, estate planning, other things, you probably do need help. But investing can be really, really simple. There's 32 pages on that in the book. If you read it, you'll have a good idea what's going on. probably can manage most of it yourself for less than $20 that the book costs. Go order the new book, The Child-Free Guide to Life and Money.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a rating or review. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Please let us know your thoughts wherever comments are available, or email us at media@childfreewealth.com. To stay up to date, find and follow Childfree Wealth on social media. If you're interested in working with us, learn more by visiting our website, childfreewealth.com. We'll see you next time.